Thank you all so much for the opportunity to speak here. Just 4 years ago, the Kentucky Supreme Court wrote that when the Constitution is threatened, the Attorney General may rise to its defense. Continuing, the court said that the Attorney General is uniquely suited to challenge the constitutionality of an executive action as a check on an unauthorized exercise of power. The plaintiff in that case was Governor Beshear during his time as Attorney General, and the defendant was former Governor Matt Bevin. Fellow Kentuckians, I stand here today proud to serve as your 51st Attorney General. In that role, I am tasked with zealously defending the Constitution, whether in good times or bad times. Over the last few months, Kentucky, along with the rest of the country, has been faced with an unprecedented challenge in the form of COVID-19. We know that the virus may have tragic consequences, and we must do everything within our power to stop it. But the virus is not the only unprecedented thing we are having to face now. Every day we are asked or ordered to take new steps to protect the public health. Now, I salute all the frontline first responders and healthcare workers who are working to ensure the public good. I also respect the difficult decisions being made by the President, governors, county judge executives, mayors, and many other elected officials. We all have a job to do, and my job, as you all know, is to defend and protect our Constitution. In that vein, today I'm asking that the governor, as he continues to manage Kentucky's response to COVID-19, rescind his order prohibiting churches from holding in-person services. Specifically, the governor should allow churches to resume in-person services consistent with the Constitution and CDC guidelines. And if he doesn't, then we will be forced to file a lawsuit and allow a judge to determine whether his order, as it pertains to religious groups, is constitutional. The First Amendment to the United States Constitution provides that Congress shall make no law prohibiting the free exercise of religion. Likewise, Sections 1 and 5 of the Kentucky Constitution provide us with the right to worship freely. And in 2013, the Kentucky General Assembly passed the Kentucky Religious Freedom Restoration Act, which provides that government shall not substantially burden a person's freedom of religion. KRS 446.350 defines a burden to include exclusion from programs or access to facilities. Simply put, the current prohibition against in-person church services is, in the view of this office, unconstitutional. I'm reminded of this every time I drive by a big box store and see dozens of cars. I'm also reminded of this every time I read that the governor has ordered law enforcement to record the license plates numbers of people who simply want to worship and practice their faith. My friends, churches deserve equal treatment commensurate with their First Amendment rights. Lest there be any confusion, I'm not here today to advocate that churches resume in-person services immediately. I believe the good Lord gives us wisdom and judgment, and we should use it in such a way that we protect our fellow Kentuckians. I've personally enjoyed online services offered by my church and applaud all faith leaders for their creativity and adaptability over the past several weeks. I have faith that Kentucky's religious leaders will listen to healthcare experts on when is the appropriate time and manner to resume in-person services. And when they do so, I know that they will be responsible. Matthew chapter 18 tells us that where two or more are gathered in my name, there I am with them. Corporate worship is essential and central to many faiths and finds a special place in the Constitution, a place that we must defend. Even in the midst of a pandemic, the Constitution must be given its proper meaning. As United States Attorney General William Barr is explained. The Constitution is not suspended in times of crisis. I wholeheartedly agree with the sentiment. Therefore, I ask Governor Beshear to lift the unconstitutional restrictions on in-person church services immediately. But while we are gathered, I want to offer a few additional remarks that I believe are necessary. First, I strongly urge all government officials to be clear with our fellow Kentuckians about what is expected of them. We must let our fellow citizens know the difference in an order and a recommendation. My office has been flooded with calls regarding government pronouncements from across the state, many of which simply seek clarity. Kentuckians want to do what is best for one another, but we are a liberty-minded bunch. So let's be clear with them. Finally, common sense must prevail. These are trying times for us all. Show grace and lenity to one another. Pick one another up. This too will and shall pass, and we will be stronger for it. But until then, let's all follow the great commandment to love one another. Thank you. At this moment, I want to turn the mic over and the podium over to my good friend and a great leader within the faith community, Pastor Fugler.
Thank you, General Cameron. As a pastor and an under-shepherd of a flock, I certainly care for the safety and health of our people, and probably care for them most because I serve as their pastor and have served the same church now for 29 years. And that's why we have been having online services since the middle of March because of the concern for COVID-19. However, I stand with the Attorney General in saying that the Constitution does give the church a protection and a right to meet. And when it is appropriate to do so, we expect the governor to honor that right, that constitutional right for us to meet as a local church. We're going through a list of ideas and guidelines to resume church. For example, we'll continue to have online services for those that are concerned about getting out and attending a public service. But we also want to provide in-church services, first of all, for those that are at risk in an early service, and then for a younger group of folks to attend the second service. We would follow the CDC guidelines, for example, using every other row in church, as well as spacing between families that have been quarantined together. And we believe that we have not only a constitutional right, we are asking that the governor would recognize the church and say to us that you can, as the grocery stores and other stores have followed CDC guidelines during this past 45 or 50 days, we would be able to do the same as a church. I do appreciate the leadership of our state and those that have kindly helped us, and especially those that are serving on the front lines, and we honor them and we pray for you every day, and we're thankful for you. We simply ask today that the governor would allow churches to exercise our First Amendment constitutional rights to meet, and we will follow those CDC guidelines and recommendations. Thank you very much. Thank you, General.
Thank you, Pastor. I really appreciate it. I am now happy to entertain and answer any questions that you might have.
Are you concerned at all that people might hear this and think that this means it's okay to start and begin in-person church services?
Well, what I hope is that this is something that the governor takes into consideration, and that he will give the opportunity for churches to meet in person. Again, with the understanding that a church should have the opportunity under the First Amendment to meet if they they deem it appropriate, but following CDC guidelines and any other regulations that might apply. But I firmly believe that our Constitution, the First Amendment, protects the right to participate in a service as a parishioner or as a church pastor deems appropriate.
A district court judge recently rejected a restraining order filed by a local area church, saying that churches were not singled out. Do you believe that churches are being targeted by the governor?
I think that the orders that have been put in place by the governor have been singling out churches. I don't believe they are narrowly tailored. Because the way that I look at this, and I think the majority of Kentuckians look at this, is that in one hand you have the church that is protected by the First Amendment. And then in the other hand, you have stores, whether it be a liquor store, Lowe's, Home Depot, Walmart, and Target. They look at that juxtaposition, the cars that are in those parking lots, and they look at a church that is closed down, no cars in the parking lot, and see something inherently wrong about that situation. So I find that the Constitution protects churches, that the Constitution allows for churches to be open, assuming that they are able to abide by the CDC guidelines. And I find it my responsibility as the Attorney General to zealously defend the rights of all Kentuckians as it relates to their First Amendment rights.
Is this at all a reaction to the protests that were out here on Saturday calling for you to do more to stand up to Beshear's executive orders?
What I'm doing today is a part of a long and ongoing conversation that we've had in our office about how best to respond to the situation. We ultimately have tried to be patient in the light of this pandemic. We recognize that the governor, the county judge executive, and mayors have a difficult task in front of them. But I also have a difficult task in making sure that we're defending the Constitution as has been noted. The Constitution does not disappear in the midst of a pandemic or any situation. I have a responsibility to defend it. In my judgment, that means that protecting the right of pastors and others to be able, in their terms, to be consistent with the CDC, being able to open, that is ultimately why I'm here this afternoon making this statement, why I'm asking the governor to do his part to open up our churches.
Does your request only apply to churches, or have you heard from rabbis and imams who also believe their constitutional rights?
I'm sorry, could you say that again? That's okay.
Yeah. Does your request only pertain to churches, or have you heard from imams and rabbis who also believe their constitutional rights are being violated?
My request and the Constitution, the First Amendment, applies to all faith-based organizations. So whether you are a church or any other religious institution, your rights under the First Amendment are protected. And my responsibility as the Attorney General is to make sure that those rights are protected, and that's why ultimately I'm here today.
Have you heard from other faith leaders, though, in terms of rabbis?
We've had conversations with rabbis as it relates to this order. And look, we hear from folks in all 120 counties, again, about the juxtaposition that I mentioned earlier, about being able to go to these other big box stores, yet not being able to worship and serve as appropriate in a church, and to practice one's faith in the way that they see fit. And so we've heard consistently over the last few weeks. And I want people to know that those remarks and comments and those emails and phone calls that we've received in this office have not gone on deaf ears. It's just a matter of us trying to be patient in this situation. Again, recognizing that we are in the midst of a pandemic, but also recognizing that we have a responsibility to the Constitution of this office.
Did any rabbis tell you that they wanted Beshear to rescind those orders too?
Specifically, I don't. That's a great question in terms of what the rabbis said specifically. But I know that whether a rabbi told me that they wanted those orders rescinded or not, my responsibility is to the Constitution. And so we were in consultation with rabbis, along with other ministers as well, about what we were going to be doing here
Beshear doesn't rescind his order, churches should meet in person next week in defiance if they want to.
What I've stated today is that I'm hopeful that he will recognize the importance of our First Amendment and constitutional rights. If not, then we will be prepared to move to the next step of filing a lawsuit to protect the constitutional rights of the Commonwealth.
Do you think churches should meet if he doesn't rescind it though? Do you think they should meet in defiance of it?
Well, I think that it's our responsibility to protect those constitutional rights, and we will file a lawsuit commensurate with that.
You obviously backed a lawsuit today about out-of-state travel. I guess one question is, that lawsuit originated weeks ago. Why did you just now decide you want to take action?
Well, this is all a part of an ongoing conversation that we've been having in the office about how best to protect the constitutional rights. And so we've tried to make decisions in a deliberate fashion. The problem that I see as it relates to the order, as it relates to religious services and in-person church services and then the travel ban, is the question of, are these the least restrictive means to effectuate the end result? Are they the least restrictive means, and are they narrowly tailored as it relates to the responsibility to allow people to worship as they deem appropriate? I'm in the judgment that these orders are not narrowly tailored, that they aren't the least restrictive means. And so we've had conversations about how best to insert ourselves into these conversations. And giving them that lawsuit today was just one of the ways that we decided to do that.
Out of all of the feedback you've gotten from I guess people that are not fans of the out-of-state travel ban, what's kind of, for your office, what's your concerns there, and what's kind of, I guess, the main motive behind it?
Yeah, well, if you look at the travel restriction and ban, the ability to leave the Commonwealth and go to a place that has no recorded, in my judgment, with no recorded cases of COVID-19, how is that bettering or flattening the curve here in Kentucky if you're going to a place that has no reported cases, or if you're going to just across the river to go to a park that is completely devoid of any individuals? How is that helping to flatten the curve? And so a prohibition that applies without any sort of recognition of what is appropriate to actually flattening the curve, and whether we are doing something consistent with and connected to that aim, that goal, is what my concern is. Whether it's nearly tailored to effectuate that end. These seem overbroad in my judgment as it relates to the travel ban and the way that the church restriction has been applied.
Do you believe every form of travel ban, because it sounds like you're talking about ground, do you believe that every form of ground travel ban should be lifted?
Well, we'll get into the specifics of that in the litigation, but as far as my judgment, the narrowly tailored component is what is a great question here, whether what is currently in the order is overbroad.
When you ran for Attorney General, you criticized Beshear for suing the governor multiple times. Do you have any qualms about potentially 2 lawsuits against the governor?
Well, we've been very patient, and I think some folks have been critical of us because we have been patient in trying to see what the governor was going to do. I'll let you know that we sent a letter as it relates to Secretary Friedlander in trying to get him to certify some facilities weren't operating consistent with the recommendation that had been made by the order, and the recommendation of the order that had been put forth by Secretary Friedlander as it related to then non-emergent urgent procedures. We got no feedback, got no response on that. We've also offered ourselves up to help the governor in crafting some of these orders. No feedback, no response. And so we have tried, in my judgment, to do what is appropriate in that regard. And you know from the time on the campaign trail that I'm very cognizant and mindful of what we are doing now. And we deliberated greatly on that point. But the Constitution is my predominant concern And when the Constitution, in my judgment, is not being respected, we have a responsibility in this office to move forward to defend it. Well, I greatly appreciate the time, and I'm thankful to the work that you all are doing. I know that you have a extremely difficult job in the midst of this pandemic, but thank you all for giving me a few moments to share my thoughts.